Hello, I hope you're having a great day today. I just wanted to first introduce myself. My name's Emily, and I have the privilege of working with our Norcross students here at the city. And we're super excited to see you guys launch the city down at Midtown to take the students that have already built a foundation in the kids and take it to the next level of what they can learn at the city, how they can apply things practically to their life to help them guide them on their middle school journey. So I just wanted to take a few minutes to help introduce you to what serving at the city looks like. And first and foremost, I just wanted to say thank you for having the heart that wants to serve with our middle school students. Middle school, really, it's in the middle. I mean, obviously it's in the middle of elementary and high school, but it's also in the middle of our formative years between our more mature years. And a lot of times in middle school, it doesn't feel like we have a place where we fit in, a place where we belong. And that's what we're all about at the city. Our tagline is a place where you belong. And you, as a volunteer coming in, you get the opportunity to make that happen for our middle school students, to create a place where they belong, a place where they feel comfortable so that they can open up to receive the love of God in a practical way by the people around them. So first, before we get into some of the basics of what serving with the city looks like, I wanted to take a few minutes to talk about our volunteer standards. So I've given you guys this attached document that I'm going to be reading off of and talking about for some of our leadership standards, what we expect out of you as our volunteers, and then also what you can expect out of us as a leadership team. So the first thing we expect out of our volunteers is to model a life after Christ. Now that doesn't mean we're looking for perfect people. That doesn't mean that we're looking for people that have it all together, that have these degrees in theology, that may seem like they're fully qualified. But we just are asking that you live a life that you can model after Christ and that middle school students can model off of as well. Especially with social media, students get a vision into your world. And the last thing we would want is for them to see their leaders and see something that may be a little bit questionable for them, their family, whether that be attendance at church, modesty, purity, that kind of thing. We just want to make sure the lives that we're living, our students are able to model themselves after. Now again, that doesn't mean we're perfect. We all make mistakes, but we just want to live a life of purity, a life pursuing Jesus in everything that we do so that our students can see that and want that same kind of thing for themselves as well. The second thing, and this is what makes our ministry so different than other ministries here at Victory, is it's not just a clock in and clock out serving opportunity. When we ask you to serve, it's not just about showing up on a Sunday at your assigned service time and then being done when you leave. The biggest thing that sets our ministry apart is we ask you to make yourselves available weekly to your students. Now that looks a little bit different depending on your students and depending on your schedule. All we're asking is that you don't limit ministry to happen within the four walls of the church, especially in middle school. Sometimes it takes time to process. Sometimes you have things happen throughout the week that you weren't really thinking about on Sunday. So we want to make ourselves available throughout the week to our students, whether that be by text, Snapchat, Instagram, whatever that looks like best for you and your students. Now, of course, it may feel awkward at the beginning. As you come in to serve with the city, we ask you to choose about 3 students that you'd be willing to make the journey with. And a lot of times, the students will choose you. As they get to know you, as they meet you, they'll pursue a relationship with you. So we're just asking that you make yourself available for that to happen. In the beginning, that may look like texting your students once a week, just seeing how they're doing, what's going on in their world, but then as you get to know them more, that relationship develops. We want to encourage you to, as they invite you to their sports games, to their recitals, to their graduations, to make yourself available to be present in their world as well. The last thing we would want is a student coming in on a weekend and feeling like they're a project. And by making ourselves available throughout the week, that gives us the opportunity to help a free-flowing relationship develop, just like how we want to show them that serving God isn't just about the weekends, and our relationship with God isn't just in effect when we're at church on Sunday, that we can have a relationship with God throughout the week. And in the same way, we want to encourage our students to have a relationship with you and a mentor that they can model themselves after. Now, I do want to balance. We do encourage you to have boundaries with your students. There shouldn't be students texting you super late at night, every night, taking advantage of your time and everything like that. We want to make sure that there's boundaries set up, but normally that won't be the problem. Normally it'll be the opposite problem of trying to pursue a relationship with your student, and at the beginning it being a little bit awkward, then being a little bit standoffish, not knowing exactly what the relationship should look like. So we just want to encourage you to be available for those relationships to form. Next is important, and the next thing we expect out of our leaders is to arrive on time. And on time for us looks like 30 minutes before the service starts. So if you were serving for the 9 a.m. service, you'd be in the loft where the city will meet no later than 8:30. That'll give us the opportunity to have about a 15-minute huddle. That way we can check in with each other, see how all of us are doing, and get our hearts and minds prepared for what we're going to be doing that day, and then to be able to pray over the space before the students get there. And then about 15 minutes before service starts, we'll head out into the lobby to be able to greet our students as they come in. I'll talk to you guys a little bit more about what a service flow will look like when we get to logistics here in a minute, but just at the beginning, wanted to let you guys know what on time looks like for us. Next is being an active member at Victory World Church. We firmly believe in being planted and rooted in a family, because we want to make sure you have enough poured into you so that way you can pour out. So one of our requirements that we have of our leaders is that they are an active member at Victory, and that includes attending weekly services, tithing, giving, attending extra events like Thirst to be able to pour into you. And we also highly encourage you to be in a small group for yourself for the exact same reason. You can't lead a small group very effectively if you're not being poured into you for yourself. So we just want to make sure that you have an avenue for that, that you're able to be active at Victory for that reason. The next thing that we ask of you as a leader is to provide a 30-day notice if you're going to transition out of the ministry. And we understand sometimes life happens and life happens quickly, but as much as possible, if you know that you're going to be moving, you're going to be taking a new job that won't allow you to be here on Sundays with us, just let us know in 30 days out if you can, so that way we can try to find a new leader to replace you. Because in all areas of the city, but especially with small groups, we want to make sure that our kids are taken care of. As they grow closer to you, as they build those relationships, it's hard to have someone new come in. So we want to make sure that we have adequate time to make sure that there's someone there, and also that that transition can take place effectively. And the last thing we ask of you is that if you choose to make this journey with us, if you choose to serve with the city, that you'd commit to giving it your all for at least the first 90 days. As I've mentioned a couple times, sometimes relationships with middle schoolers at the beginning can be a little bit awkward. I'll take myself for an example. I was raised very, very quiet, very much you don't speak unless you're spoken to, so I grew up very, very shy. I wasn't great at building new relationships right off the bat until I learned how to break out of my shell. But if I was someone right out of high school that was still very shy, and I was coming to serve with middle school students, I would probably walk in for my first day at the city, and I would say hi to one of the middle school students, and they would do what middle school students often do at the beginning when they're meeting someone new. They would be shy right back. They would feel a little bit awkward. And I would probably leave that first day of serving saying, man, I didn't do anything. I don't think this is the ministry for me. I'm not really making a difference. Let me go find another ministry where I can be more behind the scenes, where I can do something where I feel like I'm making a difference. And the reason we ask for you to give those first 90 days is so that you give it time to break down those walls of awkwardness. As I said earlier, middle school students are really right in the middle. They're between high school and middle school. High school and elementary school. And when they're in elementary school, a lot of times they just want to have fun. They're very, very open. But when they get to high school, they, start having more of that shell, more of that exterior of trying to be cool. But what's cool about being in the middle is they're just learning to have that exterior. So as soon as you spend a little bit of time with them, you have a couple weeks worth of relationship, it breaks down those walls. And they're just a student that wants to be loved and wants to have fun. So that's why we ask for you to start serving at least 90 days in the ministry, just so you give it some time to get a really good feel for it, develop some relationships to see if it's really for you. Now, those are the basic things that we expect out of our leadership team, but now you may be asking, what can you expect out of us? And here on the other side of that sheet that I sent you, the first thing, first and foremost, is a family. Now, we never want to try to replace your biological family or your small group family, but we do want to do everything we can to take care of you as well. Just as we're pouring our hearts out into the students, we need to be a family that can take care of each other. So when you have some big highs, when you have some low lows, we want to hear about it so we can celebrate you and we can join with you in prayer in the process of what you're going through. So again, we don't want to take the place of your biological family, but we do want to be here for you as well. The next thing you can expect from us is teaching and guidance. We don't expect you to come in knowing exactly how to do youth ministry. If you do, that's fantastic. You'll have a leg up. You'll be ready to jump right in. But one of the things you can expect from us is teaching and guidance. And if you choose that you'd like to be a small group leader, the very first thing I want to get into your hands is a book called Lead Small. It's a short, about 100-page book. I read it about an hour and a half, and it just gives you good basic principles on how to be a small group leader for an elementary schooler to high schooler. It's a fantastic read. It's a quick read, and if you want to be a small group leader, I want to get that in your hands. I have a couple of those. I'd love to give that away for you so you can start your journey of developing as a small group leader. And we also have a series of videos that we have to train you on how to maybe handle some of the more nuanced situations. In middle school, you have all kinds of topics coming up in small groups. A lot of times they'll be light and fun. Sometimes they'll be, kind of digging into your faith. Sometimes students may bring up more serious issues like suicide and cutting. And we want to make sure that you're equipped on how to handle those moments. Of course, there's some things that we handle and there's some things that we hand off. Our coaches and our staff, we want to be here for you. So if you're having any of those more serious situations in your group, we're here for you. We want to walk alongside you and the student both together to make sure you guys are both taken care of in the process. But we want to set you up for success on how to handle those moments when a student may open up with something like that. So we'll share these series of videos with you. There's no pressure to watch them all right away. It's just something that you can learn about at your pace as you want to continue to grow in your leadership. Next, and one of my favorite things, is continued communication with events at the city. I'm personally a planner. I have a paper calendar. It's my favorite thing to be able to write everything down and see it right in front of me to know what I have coming up. So because that's my personality, as much as possible, I want to make sure you guys have in advance communication about events at the city. We'll of course use the city Instagram at City Midtown. If you guys haven't already followed us, we'd love for you guys to go check it out because that way you'll be in the know for upcoming events we already have. But then we'll also give you more behind the scenes details. We'll have an email list, a text list, a group me, all those kind of things to keep you in the know about upcoming events as well. And lastly, and most importantly, is the opportunity to impact lives. I love the middle school age because they're building the foundation for their future. We often say it's the last time that we get a right in the cement before it dries. There's so many statistics out there on how anywhere between 80 to 90% of people that are going to come to faith in Christ choose to do so before their 18th birthday. And we believe that middle school is such an essential time because especially for students that grew up in maybe kids' church where they've known about God their whole life, this is the time where they're starting to separate their parents' faith from their own faith. They're starting to realize that they can choose what they believe for themselves. So we want to be here to be a guiding light right alongside them, to partner with parents to echo those same messages that they're hearing at home, or maybe they're not hearing at home. And that way we can pour into them. So we do a lot of incredible fun events and camps and retreats and different things at the city that I'll be telling you about shortly. But in everything we do, the bottom line is we want to impact lives and we want to build relationships. So no matter what serving opportunity you may be taking part in, maybe that's a service volunteer, maybe that's a small group leader, the bottom line is everything that we do is to build relationships and to have that opportunity to impact lives. So now let me tell you a little bit about those different serving opportunities. One of our favorite quotes here is by Jim Collins. It talks about getting the right people on the right bus and in the right seat. And everyone has different gifts and talents. Some of us have gifts and talents to plan. Some of us have musical gifts and talents. Some of us very much don't have musical gifts and talents. But we want to get you in a place that you can start serving. Now, one of the things that will be a theme throughout the rest of this video is flexibility is key. As we're launching Midtown, we are still figuring out what the flow of our students is going to be, what our services are going to look like, what our service times are going to look like. So because of that, we're going to start very, very small when it comes to the kind of ministry we're going to be doing. But we would love to hear if you have different gifts and talents with music, with social media, with photography, with things like that. I'd love to hear about it. So that way in the future, when we start doing different things with those kind of ministries, we can let you know to see if you'd like to partner with us. But if you take a look at the city commitment form, I wanted to tell you guys about the different serving opportunities that we have. So the first is the most basic level, and that would be a weekday admin volunteer. So maybe you'd say, I travel a lot for work, I can't really commit to the weekends super often. Or maybe relationships aren't the strong suit for you. Maybe you feel like you're better behind the scenes. And in that case, we would love to have your help with different things like planning, with making databases of our students, with helping with follow-up. We write thank you cards for each of our first-time visitors that come through, just to make them feel special, make them feel loved, make them feel like they have a place where they belong. So if that sounds more like your speed, then I would love for you to let me know that you'd be interested in being a weekday admin volunteer. And the next level of leader is a service volunteer. So this, of all the different serving opportunities, is going to be the most flexible. Your job description will change weekly depending on what's going on. But your primary role when we come in to do check-in would be to help check in the students, help our first-time visitors fill out their first-time visitor card, help them get their cute little VIP bag. During service time, that may be helping out with the game, helping out with the serve-in illustration, taking up offering, kind of helping whatever needs to happen during the service. And then at times, that may also look like jumping in with the students as well for small groups. Certainly, you'll be there welcoming the students, you'll be there to help answer parent questions. You'll have a lot of relationships, but then at times that may look like jumping in a small group as well if there's a small group leader sick that day. So if you are interested in serving at the city, but maybe you don't have the availability to jump quite as fully in to have those relationships with students during the week, or maybe you feel like you want to work on yourself a little bit more, develop yourself as a leader before you want to jump in as a small group leader, then being a service volunteer may be the best first place for you to start. And lastly, our last serving opportunity to serve is as a small group leader. Most of what we talk about at the city is based on our small group model. And at this point in time, I'm gonna go ahead and take a minute to tell you about what our service outline looks like. So when students come in, of course, I told you earlier, we'll come in for our 15-minute huddle. We'll have 15 minutes to go welcome our students in the lobby. And then we'll be jumping into the sanctuary to join them for worship. We'll all be worshiping in the main sanctuary together with their parents, and then we'll dismiss them to come with us over to the Vic Kids area, over to the loft. So they'll check in, just like I talked about. If it's their first time, we'll have them fill out a card, and then we'll come upstairs. First, we'll play a game, maybe a team building game, maybe a boys versus girls game, just something to get their blood flowing, get them engaged, and then we'll do about a 10 or 15-minute message to them that relates with something in their lives. After that, the primary portion of our small group, of our service is going to be the small groups. So they'll split up. At the beginning, we'll probably just split up boys and girls. As we continue growing, we'll split up by age, by grade, and also by gender. So that's where you come in as a small group leader. We'll be having about a 20-minute discussion just based on what we talked about in our message that day, because we believe the most powerful voice in a student's life isn't their parents, isn't their teacher, isn't us, isn't their friends, but the most powerful voice in a student's life is their own. they're at an age where they don't necessarily want to be told what to do all the time. They've had a whole lot of their life doing that. So the most important thing we can do for them is guide them and steer them in the right ways of a conversation where they come up with the right answers for themselves. They decide on their own what they need to do based on what they're learning and based on what the Word of God says. So as a small group leader, it's so important to be able to be that voice in their life that's not teaching them, but's guiding them in a conversation. And what that looks like is we'll give you an outline of small group questions. We'll probably have about 10 small group questions that is just meant to get a conversation going. It's not like where you'd ask a question and expect them to answer it right back. It really is a conversation. So like I said, we'll be providing those for you, so you don't have to do a ton of prep. Just read over the lesson before you come in on Sunday, so you kind of know where you want your conversation to go. And then as you get to know your group more, we encourage you to deviate from that lesson as needed. Maybe you'll have 10 questions on the sheet and your group will only get through 5 of those because you know that there's a specific topic that your girls or your boys are going to get stuck on that's really relative to them right now. And we encourage that as you get to know your students. As long as you're keeping with the key verses, as long as you're keeping with the bottom line we want them to know for that day, we encourage you to guide that conversation with what's relative to your students. So that's the biggest thing that we encourage you to do as a small group leader, just to be able to flow with your students, know what they need. And again, you don't have to be perfect to be a small group leader. You don't have to have this theological degree to know all of the Bible to be able to come back with an apologetic answer for every spiritual question that they ask. All that we ask of you is that we said earlier, you live a life modeled after Christ that a student could follow after, and you're open to teaching and guidance. We'll have plenty of trainings for you, plenty of resources that if you want to grow yourself as a leader, you'll be able to do that. So then the next question we have for you, in addition to what area you'd like to serve in, is what time you'd like to serve in. Like I said at the beginning, flexibility is going to be super key. We're going to see what services have the most need for our students, and then we'll probably adjust where our leadership team is at from there. But we would love for you to let us know what service times you'd be available to serve at. If you can give us 1 or 2 if you're flexible, and then we'll ask you which one is best for you. We'll try to give you a rough placement, and then after these first couple months, we'll see where we have our biggest needs at, and if you'd maybe be available to switch to another service if we have a bigger need somewhere else. So those are kind of the basic layout of what serving at the city is and what that looks like. I did want to let you know quickly about a couple other things that we have outside of our weekly services. The first thing is going to be our monthly events. So our core values here at the city are fun, community, and discipleship. And we believe that all those things start and build on fun. So as a way to help them have some positive community outside of their school, we'll do a fun event once a month. And that may be going roller skating, that may be going to the movies, that may be doing some kind of like fun Olympics at the park. That can be a lot of different things, but we want to encourage you to come be with your students at those events so that you can build that valuable relationship time with them. At Midtown, since we don't have a lot of time pre-service with them, this will be the best time to build those relationships with them and help them get comfortable with you. Those events will probably take place on Saturdays from 12 to 2. We found that's usually a really good time for families, so we'll let you know about those coming up. And also the most impactful thing I believe we do at the city is our camps. We do one camp in the fall for our 6th graders, and we do one camp in the spring for our 7th and 8th graders. It's really awesome because the 6th graders just coming out of Vic Kids, that's the way that as they're starting their school year, they can begin their journey with the city and with middle school. And for Camp Prime in the spring, that's the way for obviously our 7th graders to grow, but then our 8th graders, that's one of the last experiences they have with us before they go to high school. And at those camps, it's really everything that we've done in small groups throughout the months, even throughout the years, coming to fruition. How our camps go is we have services in the morning and at night, and then we also have small groups time after each of the services to help our students process. We have altar calls as well, and it's really those moments at camp when they're away from their friends, their family, their phones, that they don't have any other distractions, that all the seeds you've planted in the small groups throughout the months, those really come to bloom, and it's amazing to see. So we definitely will keep you guys updated with dates coming. With that, we encourage all of our leaders to attend both camps. Of course, we really want you to attend the camp of the small group you're going to be working with, but they're just so impactful, and it's so much fun to be able to see the students in that environment. So we've talked about what we expect from you, what you can expect from us. We've talked about kind of how the services will look, how they'll flow, and some upcoming events. And the last thing I want to leave you with is a story. This is the story about a family who adopted a little girl. They couldn't have kids of their own, so they chose to adopt a girl from overseas. And they adopted her when she was about 3 years old, and she'd had a troubled life leading up to that time. So when they were finally able to get her, they finally brought her over to the US. They were a very strong believing Christian family. But because of everything that they went through, they didn't want to force their religion on her. She'd already seen a lot of things by the time she was 3 years old. So all they wanted to do is, just live their lives as they would and show God's love to her through the way they lived. So they did that in the way they poured her cereal for her. They did that in the way they supported her as she grew older and started going to school. They tried in the little moments just to show her the love that she didn't have. And they would talk about God from time to time. But then one night, as their daughter was going to sleep, she said that she wants the God that they have. She wanted to ask Jesus into her heart. And the parents were honestly caught a little bit off guard. They didn't know where she got that verbiage from. It wasn't something they'd really talked to her a whole lot about. So they asked her, "Sweetie, how do you know that you want to do that?" And the daughter said that you built a bridge from your heart to mine, and I'm letting Jesus walk over it. And see, at the city, that's exactly what we want to do. Plank by plank, we just want to build a bridge from our heart to our students with the hope that they'll continue to let Jesus walk over that path. It's not about doing these big, huge things. It's not about having all the answers. It's just about showing up. It's just about being there consistently. It's just about remembering the small things. And most importantly, showing them love in everything that we do. That plank by plank, we can build that bridge from our heart to theirs. So, as you're considering if you want to be a leader here at the city, if you want to come volunteer with us, I just want to encourage you to pray, to ask and seek God to see where He has you. And if you belong here, just know you're in for a wild ride, but you're in for a rewarding ride. We are so excited to launch the city down here at Midtown, to be able to take care of an age that oftentimes society forgets about as the in-between. So I just want to encourage you to pray about this decision. See if this is something you want to commit to. And if you do, I would love to help you out getting involved in the next steps. So thank you guys so much for taking time to watch this video, to prepare with us. If you have any questions whatsoever about what serving looks like, about what the city looks like, please, I'm available by phone, by email. You have my information. Please reach out to me. We're really, really excited to have you guys. And so follow-up steps from this. If you're interested in serving, let me know what service times and what serving opportunity you're most interested in, and then I'll give you some next steps on getting plugged in from there. If you're not interested in serving at the city, you feel like it's not the place for you, please let me know so I can take you off of our list. And then if you are interested in getting involved in any other serving opportunities, maybe that's Big Kids, maybe that's new here, greeters, let me know, and I'd love to get you connected with that point of contact for that ministry as well. So thank you guys so much, and I look forward to hearing from you soon.